Welcome everyone to this Wednesday night edition of the Moriah Nightly News. On this April Fool's Day, a lot has gone on in the news world, a lot of things to follow, especially as we transition from a casual broadcast into a more formal news outlet. The top story that we have been following since we began this uh, nightly news program has been the war overseas. And since the beginning of this week, the president has hinted that he would like to draw down the war or bring the war to a close, even if that were to mean leaving Iran without some formal ceasefire or agreement. That would potentially mean that the United States would pull out without reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and this could be very interesting to watch because of the fact that Chinese oil is taken from Iran primarily. And since the beginning of this conflict, along with all of the fuss in the media over where is the United States going to get its oil or why are prices going up here at home, it has put a strain on China's oil supply. And this is all very significant for the balance of power abroad, the balance of power, soft Cold War or quasi Cold War that we have been in with China in the last few years. It very much could be a strategic move on the part of the United States to lessen China's influence in the world and force China's hand, especially ahead of what will be a high-stakes summit with the president and President Xi later this year. So that is we're still following that. The campaign is still going on, and the Department of Defense, or the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, has said that all options are still on the table. As of this broadcast timing, the president is scheduled to speak later tonight about the situation in Iran and his plans. That will be on Friday night's program because we will not have time to cover that as it comes available. So we will be watching all of that closely in the days ahead. With that, of course, over the weekend, we had covered on Monday the No Kings protests that had taken place in our region, and we were able to follow up on some of those things in the region. There were apparently two more. Besides the one in Plattsburgh, there were also two smaller ones, one in Saranac Lake and one in as close as Scroon Lake. And a little bit of digging found, and it didn't take very long because all it took was reading the headlines in the Press Republican on Tuesday, revealed that the key funding for most of these protests are coming from not simply things like the feminist lobby or the Unitarian Universalist Church, so you get a false church in there, but Planned Parenthood itself is backing these protests. Let me repeat that. Planned Parenthood is funding No Kings protests. And Planned Parenthood, of course, is an abomination that deserves no further attention. But for the sake of bolstering my opinion, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was known for sponsoring eugenics. And that is purging anyone with a disability, a handicapped, very much like what Nazi Germany tried to do. But it was interesting because a quote by this wretched woman found that she stated this: abortion is an alternative that I cannot too strongly condemn. Although abortion may be resorted to in order to save the life of the mother, which I doubt really happens much anyway, they just like to peddle that lie, the practice of it merely for limitation of offspring is dangerous and vicious. Now, why does the founder of an organization that prides itself on killing babies say that it should not be used willy-nilly for birth control? Sounds like a lot of hypocrisy to me. Now, the other thing that I followed up on was because in these articles about the No Kings protests were the Epstein files, and everybody's complaining in the media of show us the files, show us the files, show us the files. Now, the Epstein files were a part of the Epstein Files Transparency Act of 2025, of course, to release those files from convicted sex offender and financier Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, that's been well covered in the past. The redactions in those documents are meant to protect the victims, obviously to keep material that features children off the internet, and to preserve anything that would compromise national security, which of course our friends on the left don't care about national security because they're willing to hold up the Department of Homeland Security and TSA funding because they're throwing a hit because they get their feelings hurt over ICE. And the fact that President Clinton is willing to testify that under oath before Congress and in closed-door meetings that he did not see that President Trump was implicated in these in any crime. Not that he isn't mentioned in the files, but that he's not implicated in any crime. At this point, the files are so far-reaching that it's unclear how many. Most of the people, from what I've read so far, that are implicated had financial dealings with him, not necessarily personal ones. Now, of course, there were some others, like Stephen Hawking and others like that, who definitely had personal dealings with Epstein. That seems clear, but it's more explicitly evident in the material that is available. Now, of course, we will continue to follow that as it becomes available, or as we get more information, as this news network, if you will, takes form and shape. As it is a one-man operation, it does take a little bit of time. But it just seems like a lot of noise to me. Like it's a distraction of by the enemy to cover up the hideous evil in high places. Another headline that has been coming out is North Korea is also testing out nuclear weapons again. They have been doing that for years anyway, so there's nothing new there. And I'm sure that will be prominent when the president goes to China. Now, another thing I want to cover on the national front, because it is incredibly important, the Supreme Court handed down one ruling this week in favor of a Colorado therapist who held a practice, and it was a big conversion therapy case because she was a Christian who suggested that same-sex attraction is not as fixed or as some would like to think that it is. So it was an 8-1 ruling, with the only justice dissenting on that being the Justice Ketanji Brown, the justice, by the way, that President Biden appointed, that could not tell you what a woman is. And I believe any third grade, fourth grade child could define what a woman is in very simple terms. And the fact that we would let any woman like that sit on a Supreme Court is appalling. So that means 8-1 means that two of the liberal justices, Justice Kagan and Justice Sotomayor, sided with the conservative side of the court. And that is not only a victory for anyone in Christian counseling or psychology in general to have the freedom to speak the truth into these situations, but it shows how wicked some of these media outlets can be when you go to places like Slate Media saying how tragic it is that this ruling happened, when it should be a no-brainer that obviously you're going to uphold the not just the religious beliefs of the therapist in question, but the medical practice. It's not conversion therapy. It's not the media reporting has been incredibly dishonest on it, because it is not at all the types of conversion therapy that we saw back in the 90s or the 80s and 90s and that type of thing. All it is suggesting is in a pastoral way, if you will, guiding a person to healing. And it is a clash of worldviews that should be welcome in a free society. But the left doesn't want a free society. They only want free speech if you agree with them. And that is the case these last few years, especially increasingly so, when more on the left resort to violence. All kinds of polling on that suggests that growing numbers of people on the left think it's okay to use any means necessary to take out political opponents, and the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the fallout from that should be foolproof evidence for why that is the case. And looking more at the state level, we caught wind of the NY21 race in the 21st Congressional District, and Anthony Cosentino. There was a question of ballot petition there, and we did not have time to fully pursue that story with everything else that has gone on today in the news, because along with the reporting over the last couple of days, we're also following the space launch today with Artemis 2 going up into space, and you've got that going on, and also dealing on the local level. Elizabethtown Hospital, very close by, is opening a new physical therapy center. CVPH Medical Center in Plattsburgh has 6 new physicians in residency, which is always good to see some new medical minds come to the area. And Saranac Lake, a doctor up that way, received a grant for tuberculosis funding. Surprising. Of course, Saranac Lake has always had a history for treating tuberculosis, so that was an interesting tie-in to the history there. So, even more locally, one story that we, in the midst of getting up and running and off the ground, that we did not cover last week, I believe it came out last week, sometime last week, was that our own Brian Cross in the town of Moriah, the longtime basketball coach and the coach who led the Moriah Vikings to the 2017 state championship, is being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame for New York State, and so we want to congratulate him on that achievement, and we will see how that goes when that takes place. We continue to roll through Holy Week. Tomorrow is Maundy Thursday. Monday, Thursday services in Port Henry, which would be the Holy Thursday of the Lord's Supper. That will be at 5 p.m. this year, if I'm getting that right, instead of the normal 7, due to the recent parish merger there. Nothing going on at the Methodist Church, and I know, of course, the churches in Ticonderoga as well do have some options there. I believe St. Mary's is a little bit later. I believe at 7 o'clock is St. Mary's. So if you are not able to make one in Moriah, you can always head down to neighboring Ticonderoga. And so it'll be interesting to see how much of these headlines shake out. It's a time of exposing things that need to be exposed and calling out evil in the high places so that the revival and renewal of the land can come. And when I watched the President's State of the Union address, that was very much the feel of the speech. That anyone who would not be willing to stand for advocating for the American citizen over an illegal immigrant, or being unwilling to stand up for children and would allow them to be mutilated with gender reassignment surgery and all of that before they're even 13 years old, even, and before their teenage years, is just flat out evil. And don't vote for these people. They don't care about you. All they want is power and corruption, and it's not going to continue forever. And it's done. And all of that is being investigated right now by the Justice Department, the DOJ, and so we need to pray that all of that comes out and all of that gets carried to its full extent of the law. So we will continue to watch the situation with Iran, and do I think the president will pull out? It could be possible. It was interesting, though, to note that other countries in the region, like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, if I get that right, were saying that they wanted the president to stay longer and finish the job because they're the ones that have to deal with Iran firing off these missiles and all of that instability that they have caused in the region for the last 47 years. They have been the ones causing the instability. They have been the aggressors, not Israel. So that'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. Really, the thing that I think will be the interesting piece is if we do pull out, what the Strait of Hormuz will look like if it does not get opened by the United States, because it would mean that someone else would have to go in and get it. And I would hope that there would be the exploration of other oil sources for the U.S. outside of that region anyway. When America does produce the most oil, when we have expanded into other parts of the world like Greenland and South America to ensure that there is a good buffer for resources in those parts of the world to keep that need essentially out of our purview, basically, so that we don't need that oil from the Middle East anymore. And really, it would be a blessing for the United States to not be dependent on Middle Eastern oil when, as I've said before, OPEC has manipulated the oil price for years, when there's always generally a supply that is able to meet the demand. So lessening that dependence will be good in the long run. So I really just think that the more you research, the more you find that the media just the mainstream media just does not tell you what the real truth is or the full possible extent of the story. Now, I wouldn't claim to be perfect. I would not claim to be perfect, certainly as having having very little resources, but I do pray that it is a benefit to someone listening to consider what this all means in the long run and in the big picture. Now, the Israel is still taking it to Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's still going on, so we'll be following that. And I would not be surprised if, even without the U.S.'s help, Israel will continue to take it to Iran that way. There were also reports that Trump may pull out of NATO over his really over the lack of support for the war in Iran. You had the UK, Italy, and others denying the U.S. access to any of their bases, be it in the Middle East or in, I believe, in Europe, closer to Europe. There were planes that wanted to land in those places, and those countries did not allow it. And this has been kind of a sore spot for the president for years, saying that NATO has unfairly taken advantage of the U.S. and much of the missiles that Iran has been firing since this war began have the clear capability of hitting Europe, and so you would think they would be a little more interested, but evidently they're not. And so we will continue to follow these developments over the next couple of days. And thank you for all the support on Facebook, all the support on YouTube. Be sure to check us out on Patreon as well. There was a new message put up there for the vision for this channel. And do stay well. We would like to ask our viewers that if you find things around the around the community or the wider region that are newsworthy, and you are able to send us footage or pictures or images like that, that if you happen to be there, because we can't be everywhere at once, that would be a tremendous help for this program to continue. Do pray that I can figure out the tech issues in figuring out how to overlay audio onto these images that we have had come in from the church services around the area and things like that, so that in the future, covering different events around town, those can come up as well. As I announced earlier today that on April 23rd, we will be at the Old Miners Tavern in Moriah to cover State Senator Dan Steck's visit, and so your prayers are appreciated for that as well. So that is the Moriah Nightly News for this April Fool's Day. I'll tell you, it is no joke. Thank you, and God bless.